Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. If you are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. We are live at these four locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but our next broadcast will be our annual fan hangout show on Friday, December 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that one will be on a different day. Let's bring in my very good friend, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. Haven't seen you in a bit, man. How's it going?
It's going good, man. So how long when did we meet? Now you were an original employee of Community CCRX, right? Before it turned into
Member
that?
Health, yes. Member
So
Health.
you remember, okay, so you were there like a year or something before I joined, I believe.
September 3rd of 2003, I was hired. September 12th, excuse me.
Okay, so you got about two years on me. So I literally have never known you to be sick in 19 years. And dude, last week when I heard you on the phone, you sounded absolutely awful. But I literally have never known you to be sick in 19 years. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it was so bad that, I mean, I could not kick it. It was like a solid week, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I was like, what is going on here? And I just could not get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was absolutely miserable. Like, I hate working from home. I worked from home the first 4 days of the week. And then I took a PTO day on Friday, and it's our busy season.
Right.
And I never, ever take a PTO day during busy season. So that, it was like just this, I mean, it had to be like 25 years since I was that sick for that long. So,
yeah.
So that, and then you were going to roll with it, and then your power went out.
Yeah. I mean, the power going out here when it's windy or snowy is not unique, but I just thought, man, I've really literally never known this dude to miss a show. Like, I know he's got to be sick too if he's like, I don't even know if we're going to be able to get through the podcast.
Yeah.
If we do it. But
the cough that I had was hellish, man. So
yeah, it's good to see you're better, man, because that, especially at our age, man, if that crap lingers, like, you never know when it's going to go away.
Sure. Thanks, man.
But yeah, it was I don't know, before we get into this episode, so I ended up going to see Jeff Tate, which you unfortunately were unable to attend due to your illness.
Yeah.
And met up buddy of mine I work with, Bob, ended up meeting me there later. And it started out as one of those nights.
Okay.
Where you walk in and about 10 minutes later, some dude who's all there by himself has decided you're going to be his best friend for the evening.
Oh, yep.
And as I told you before, you being a lead singer especially know how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this guy, I'm guessing, I'm going to say 5. And again, I'm not saying anything about people that are short, whatever. It's not one of those deals. He was like 5'6", and I guess I'm being kind, right? Probably 61-ish. Originally from California. Believe me, I got his entire life story.
Of course.
So I wish I had taken a picture of it. So first thing he kind of is like, yeah, these guys are going to jam, right? You know, so whenever someone starts out a sentence like that at a concert, you know, have you seen him before? And it's like, he's one of those guys too. Like he's talking the entire time, and when he asks you a question, he doesn't really want you to give an answer.
The
Like,
hypothetical.
this is going to be really good, right? And I start to say, well, I've seen, and then immediately it's back on to him. So the first thing he shows me is this picture of himself with hair down to basically his waist, wearing like a sheet that says "Born to Be Wild." And he's like, "Yeah, this is right after the Steppenwolf concert in 1981 at the LA Sports Rink or something." You know, what I mean? Like,
Oh my
he's
God.
got this picture on his phone. And it gets even better. And then he's like, "Hey man, are you into bikes at all?" And I was like, "Well, not really." He's like, "I I'm a big Harley guy." He's like, I rode my Harley to Cedar Point and this and that. And he's like, "What about regular bikes?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I'd like to ride my bike once in a while, but So he shows me this picture. Again, I wish I'd taken a picture of it. It's a picture of his buddy is on the roof of this apartment building, and he's on a Schwinn beach cruiser. Now, have you ever seen one of those? They're like the movies, the bikes people are riding around in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one gear, right? He has this wooden ramp set up, and it's like a 40, I'm not even kidding, a 35, 40-foot jump. Bob can like testify to this picture. And his
Okay.
buddy took a picture of this guy mid-flight, like Evil Knievel, over this jump, like in 1984 or something. And this is what he's showing me. And I'm like, this is absolutely the most amazing, fascinating story I've heard in a long time. So from there, it's like we're that was after the opening band had finished up, so we're just kind of waiting around for Tate to start, and he's telling me all this and showing me these pictures, and I'm like, I can't wait till Bob gets here. I'm like, I have to show Bob this picture. And Bob's like, his eyes are like, he's like, yeah, we got a new best friend or whatever, and he's telling all this stuff.
Right.
So he's like, do you know where the soundboard is at Beachland at the back there?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like, it's kind of one of those places you kind of want to be if you don't feel like sort of just standing in the middle. You can kind of lean against it,
Yeah.
So he's like, hey man, I gotta go get another beer. Can you watch my spot and my beer here? So,
Oh my
so I
God.
turned into that guy, and I'm like, well, I'm not going
Wow.
anywhere. I'm still waiting for Bob, right? So Bob gets there and he sees the whole spiel and he's shaking his head and stuff. And then finally the lights go out, and it's like immediately the guy grabs his phone, holding it up like, dude, can you hold my beer while I film this?
Are you kidding me?
Like,
Oh my God.
like, I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'll play along with this for like, half of this song or whatever. And so he's got his hands up as high as they can possibly go, because this is a small dude, It's like way up like this.
What the hell?
Yeah, and then finally, like, he brings it down, and I'm like, okay, hand him the beer, and I look at Bob, and I'm like, I'm going up there. I'm like,
Yeah.
because there really wasn't. Anyway, that's the story about that guy. But I don't know if there was. Man, if I say there was 200 people there, you probably, when you were there, would say I overestimated.
Well, he played there kind of recently.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely last year.
Right.
So
this is similar to what you said you had seen, right? So this is the opening band was some, I don't know if it's, well, his band is from all over, including one of the guys from Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's like the same band that's the opener is his band. Then I guess the singer then plays a little bit of guitar. The only person I think that wasn't in the original opening band was the keyboard player. He was from Brazil, I believe they said. But you know what? It was cool. I mean, we did not know what to expect. And they tried to cram a few. I'm trying to think of what it was. Rise was maybe the song. I forgot what song.
Yeah, I read the set list, and it reminded me of like when you were a kid and your mom is like, all right, we're gonna have bacon cheeseburgers and French fries for dinner, but every few bites you have to eat this Brussels sprout. Because it was like a lot of great stuff, and then a couple just absolute turds from that later stuff you want nothing to do with.
To his credit, I think there was only 3 total. I forgot to get the actual set list and look it up, but you did before. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, the way I kind of explained it, and you'll probably get this, is like, to me, it's like the difference of like, okay, when you go see Queensryche and they're playing through a $15,000-$20,000 guitar rig, and sound system and playing all those notes and songs note for note, and then you get, a $1,200 bar band or whatever playing it. You know what I mean? They're all great musicians and good guys. It just doesn't sound quite the same. I thought Tate sounded great for the most part. You know, up until the end, there was a little bit of this and that. But you know, they also do this thing where they kind of don't play the whole song. Sometimes it doesn't turn into quite a medley, but things just sort of blur into the other. And when your songs are so kind of unique the way they are, it's kind of hard to like sort of blend them. You know what I mean? Like it's not really seamless transition. You know, when you're going from like Walk Into the Shadows to Empire or something. I don't know. It just, you know what I mean? It doesn't exactly work. So we ended up getting, I think that was the main disappointment, was we only got one from Rage for Order, and that was Walk in the Shadows. And that was kind of a sort of a 3-minute, like, against almost part of a medley, but not a medley. You know, they're all kind of just jamming to it.
I don't like when bands do that, man. Like when John Bush was in Anthrax, I loved the John Bush era. But they would do that with the old stuff. They would like chop it up and like kind of like only play parts. I'm like, dude, cut that out. Like that's just, I don't like when bands do that at all. I'm like, either play the song or don't.
Yeah, no, it sort of annoyed me. But I mean, it wasn't so short that it wasn't, but I think you got a verse and a chorus and that was it. And it was cool though. We had like, I wasn't expecting, like, we got like Another Rainy Night, Empire, obviously Jet City Woman.
Empire was the opener, wasn't it?
Empire was the opener, yeah.
Okay.
We did not get Operation Mindcrime, the song, which kind of surprised me. We got Don't Believe in Love and Breaking the Silence. Okay. There was no Eyes of a Stranger. He did this weird thing at the end where it was like all this, it was almost like this punk thing. It's like, and I'm like, what is this? And then all of a sudden it was Silver Bells. Christmas serious? Song. Yeah, it was actually kind of fun. But the crowd was like, I don't know. But yeah, you talk about like, you had a perfect analogy there. Like, I put cheeseburger and fries. Make sure you eat some broccoli. And, you know, if you hate, I actually like broccoli, you know, as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, he try to force those songs down and they play them and they're jumping around. They're getting into them. And, you know, some of them are not even all that bad, but it's just like, it's like, dude, you got so many damn good songs. Just, you don't need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Like, but in all, man, I thought it was a great show. I thought he sounded, I was pretty shocked. I thought he was totally over playing anything from the original EP, because I thought he said he couldn't hit it, any of those. And they did Lady Wore Black and Queen of the Reich, and he obviously laid back pretty hard on those.
Yeah.
It was nowhere near, like, I forgot what's the name of the new singer.
Todd LaTorre.
Yeah, Todd LaTorre. Yeah, he can't Todd LaTorre that stuff at all, but I think he knows that. But it was cool, man. I was really glad I went. I mean, I thought it was a great show, and I thought he put on a hell of a performance, and the band was good enough, and I was glad I went.
I was pissed that I had to miss that, because I know I've seen him twice there, and it's been good. It's been good, and you know, seeing somebody of that stature in a place that small, you know, we talked about this on the show previously, that I mean, it's really cool. And you don't really get an opportunity to do that very often. So, I mean, like we bought tickets to see Queensryche in Pittsburgh with Marty Friedman, and that's not at a small venue. It's a theater and stuff like that. So, yeah, that sucked that I had to miss it. So, I was, and of course they play my favorite Queensryche song. So, I Don't Believe in Love, and miss that. But so yeah, that's like I say, the set list looked cool outside of a few songs, and sounds like you made a new friend. I mean, the only question is like how quick did you run to get his number after the show?
So to finish off that story, it's one of those stories where you saw the guy kind of double fisting all night, and you're just waiting for the time until he kind of runs into the wrong guy that doesn't feel like dealing with him. And sure enough, it was after the show was over. We're walking out, Bob and I, and this guy's like totally going off on this dude, like, looking at him and yelling. And this guy's like, "Ooh, I'm sorry, man." So he finally found the person that was like, after that many beers, it's like, yeah, I'm I don't really feel like dealing with this. I'm done.
You're like, yeah, see you later. You were obnoxious to begin with, and now you're drunk. So see you later.
Yeah, but I mean, super nice guy, and like, just a fun story I could tell. Now, I wish I had like originally I was gonna be like, hey man, send me a picture of that, and I'm like, well then shit, this guy's gonna have my number, and I don't even want to
Yeah,
know
that's
what's gonna happen at that point.
yeah. You don't want that.
No.
You should have had him send it to Herd just to watch Herd
Yeah.
start getting blown up later.
Right. Oh my god.
Here's my number. All of a sudden, Herd's like, "The hell is this text message?"
Right.
Next thing you know, you're not friends anymore. A week later.
Yeah.
So speaking of Queensryche, one of our favorite bands, we are doing the episode we were supposed to do 2 weeks ago, and thank you everybody for being patient with us. As Brian said at the outset, I was very sick, and he lost power at his house, so that show got submarine. So we're doing it now, but this is an idea that you came up with, Brian. We let you pick the idea for your birthday show because last episode would have been your birthday show, and you decided that you wanted to see what desert island album collection we would each choose, and we each picked 10 records, and you did have the caveat that you cannot have Dream Theater on the list. So
yeah, I figure we talk enough Dream Theater on here, so it'd be kind of stupid to put those on this list. Otherwise, you're going to have 9 Dream Theater albums, right?
I would have had Falling Into Infinity, go figure, and Score. So
okay,
those have been mine. So right off the bat, I am going to tell you that I cheated a little bit on my list. So I'm trying to pull it up here on my phone real quick. But so a couple of mine are obvious, and I got called out by one of our viewers. And he said, oh, gee, John's going to have 1984 and Injustice for All and Operation Overrated. I'm like, overrated? And Pantera, like, so yeah, we know what's going to be on this list. So I said, okay. So I'm not gonna do 1984 or Injustice for All. What I am going to do is before they throw me on the island, I'm gonna divert their attention and slide each of those into some other record. So I'm technically gonna have them. I'm just not mentioning them on my list here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go first. Since
right.
you mentioned Queensryche, this may be a little obvious, but I am going with Operation Live Crime as my first desert island album because, I mean, it sounds basically the same as the studio version, but you get a couple extra songs. There's a couple elongated arrangements that are really, really cool. And I've got to have my Operation Mindcrime. So but again, I chose the live version because it's just so energetic and there's so much power to it. So it's like basically that album on steroids. So an obvious pick, but my first one is Operation Live Crime. So
now, what are the extra songs on there?
It's Roads to Madness and I think The Lady Wore Black. I want to say.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and one of them it actually might be. No, that's a different one I'm thinking of. But I think, oh yeah, the studio version, like the remastered version, has a couple songs. A couple of the Mindcrime songs live on there as bonus tracks, and one of them is oh god damn it, I'm drawing a blank. What's the empty room today?
Oh, okay.
The like Mission 22 or whatever, that little short dinky thing. I was like, what kind of bonus track is that? Like, that's the best you could do.
Right.
So that's pretty funny, but yeah, so I'm getting an obvious one out of the way for myself right away. So, and I don't have mine ranked, excuse me, in any order. So this is just kind of random, but yeah, my first one is Operation Live Crime. What do you have on your list? And did you rank them as you usually do, or do you just have them in any old order?
You know what? I changed this thing around so many times that I'm not ranking them. Like,
yep.
So we talked before about it's kind of hard sometimes, stuff that you think has just been played to death. And I took an example, like literally one of my favorite rock albums of all times, still is, and used to be more so, was Def Leppard's Hysteria. But
I have that on my almost made it list. Yep.
You know, I can't even, if I hear Pour Some Sugar on Me, I almost become ill. If I hear, I don't know. We'll see the more ballady stuff. You know, I just don't want to. I don't know. They've burned it in the ground. You know, they burned it so bad for me that I just don't kind of want to. You know, it's like, oh, I can't wait to hear Pour Some Sugar on Me when you go to Def Leppard. Dude, Gods of War is on there. Like
Thank you. That's my all-time favorite Def Leppard tune.
That's what you're supposed to want to hear, you know. But not Love Bites, you know what I mean? Like,
yep, totally agree.
So I cheated in a way too. I went with some live albums to get me more songs, and
I was thinking the same way you were.
This is an album that came across I never knew existed until I believe we got DirecTV back in 2006 or something, or 2007, and they were broadcasting this live concert. It's Toto, Falling in Between Live. It's from 2007, recorded in Paris. This live video and the accompanying live 2 CD thing, if you actually get the CD, is one of the most incredible vocal musical performances I've ever seen by a band. Like, so good. And it features so it's got Bobby Kimball, who's the original singer, who was there, then left, then came back. The only other original member on this one is Steve Lukather, who's been with them since the dawn of time, the guitar player.
Yep.
Amazing guitar player. And it also features a guy on keyboards named Greg Fillinganes. Now, the most famous thing this guy ever did, he played all of the keyboard parts on the title track from Michael Jackson's 1982, or is it, or 83 Thriller. So like,
wow, okay,
like the Dare, he's like, he did all the synth bass parts, all the high pitches. He did the pipe organ parts behind Vincent Price's rap. He was Michael Jackson's musical director for many years. He toured with the Jacksons, did like the Victory Tour and things like that. I didn't know any of this stuff about the guy. I just remember seeing the concert and listening to it. And this guy's just amazing. I mean, he's worked with everybody from like Stevie Wonder to Herbie Hancock. And his keyboard solo in this thing, it's like this jazz blues fusion, 4-minute, just ridiculous, so cool. And it's not even really solo because the whole band's jamming with him too, you know. But it's just some incredible songs on here. It's Falling in Between, Caught in the Balance. Like, if I played some of these songs for you, you'd be like, oh my God, these vocal performances are just soaring.
Right.
Toto's one of those bands that, like, the song Africa, I don't know what that has to do anything with the band, because it just doesn't. I mean, there's hardly even any guitar in it, really, you know. And it's like, it's not what that band is about, you know. They're more towards like the Hold the Line, Rosanna song Pamela. You probably don't know that one, but it was one of their hits.
Mm-hmm.
This really cool song called King of the World. There's also another one. I can't think of what the name of it was. It's the one that Steve Lukather sings. It's got these really worldly, like, drum beats to it and stuff. Bottom of Your Soul. It's just really cool. This cool kind of in and out Asian sounding keyboard parts. You know, it just sounds like a big world music meets rock meets fusion. And it's like, I don't know, it's probably a total of music and just incredible musicianship. The vocals are great. And very cool concert. If you ever can run across, just check it out. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Speaking of things that are very big and sound very big, you might say that those things might be Mammoth, which leads us to the next album on my list. This one probably is not a surprise either, but I am absolutely in love with that Mammoth WVH record, the first album by Wolfgang Van Halen. It sounds great. The songs are so well crafted. There's melody for days on that thing. I mean, it's like a perfect record for me. I was so pleasantly surprised when when that album came out, because I was so looking forward to it. And you hear Eddie, of course, was excuse me, apparently I'm not completely over being sick. You hear Eddie like saying it doesn't sound like anything you've ever heard, and and I was like, okay, well, what's this gonna be? And then when they dropped, the first song, which I always forget if it was "You're to Blame" or "Don't Back Down," but whichever one it was, I was like, holy shit! Like, well, actually, it was "Distance." I think was the first thing that,
Distance.
and I was like, wow, this is, oh my God. And right away I was hooked, because the video and the song blend so incredibly well. I've never seen anything blend the emotion of a song with the video itself like that before. So I was immediately hooked. And then, like I said, they put out, You're to Blame and Don't Back Down. I was like, oh my God. And then I got the record, and the whole damn thing was just unbelievably killer. So I listen to that record at least once a week, and I can't wait to see him on tour again. I saw him twice, and it was fabulous both times. And the songs on the deluxe version that he just put out digitally, they're really good. And I'm just ready for some more Mammoth. But until then, unfortunately I won't be able to get it because I'm on a desert island, and I'll have to stick with the first one. So the second record on my list is the Mammoth WVH self-titled release. So that's number 2 for me. What is next on your list, which we have not ranked at all?
Well, before we get to that real quick, when I heard The Distance, I loved the video. I thought the music was like good. I thought it was, a little bit formulaic and repetitive. And I was just like, I was really curious to hear the rest. I was blown away as well. Because for as long as it took for this to come out, it seems like you're just like, there's no way this is going to live up to it. Like, I don't know. My expectations of this were very, very low, and he
Sure
proved me totally wrong. I just thought it was like such a long wait on this. I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, I love it. Like that song, Think It Over. I absolutely love that song.
That's my favorite song on the record. Yep.
Yeah. My favorite song too, probably. You're to Blame is great. Mr. Ed, the title track, but yeah, it's all, you're right. It's all good. I'd be totally on board if that one replaced one of mine or something. I wouldn't be too bummed. Well, you know what? Since we're in that vein, and I swear this is not just for you, I'm going to go to 1979's Van Halen 2.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is the best overall Van Halen album of the old stuff, front to back. And you know what's so weird to me is when you hear the guitar start in the crunching chords of You're No Good.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like your buddy just recorded that over in his bedroom, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so live and so raw and so in your face. You know what I mean? And just such an immediate feel to it. Like, I mean, just the way the guitar, the vocals scream off of there, the backing vocals are just floating on air, mixed, and it combined the contrast of Roth just wailing away. And you still get chills when I hear this stuff, and you're going into Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Out of Love Again, DOA, probably one of my favorite songs of all time of theirs.
Women in Love, dude.
Women in Love, like the final 3 on that, DOA into Women in Love, that ascending progression at the end, and it's just got those little sprinkled harmonics just right in there, just kind of just going in and out there while Dave's just being kind of a goof on top of that, scatting a little bit over there, but it sounds so goddamn good, and then you go into Beautiful Girls and just the vocals on that as the closer. I mean, I don't even know what else you say about something like that. Like it just, that stands the test of time, and it will forever. Like it's just such an incredible recording, and it sounds so real and raw and so live and so good.
Yep. I will not argue with you putting a Van Halen record on there. The one that almost made the list for me was Fair Warning. That's my favorite Roth record. But Van Halen 2, you're right. It's like it's just so good. You go through the whole track listing, and it's like, and you talked a little bit earlier about songs that have been played to death so you get sick of them. Dance the Night Away is one of those hit songs that I never get tired of.
No, me neither.
It is so upbeat and just so fun to listen to.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you nailed it. Like Somebody Get Me a Doctor and DOA and all that kind of stuff. Like it's so damn good. So I won't talk too much about it because if I get into Van Halen, we'll be here for quite a while. But
did you mention Logan Brannigan's comment? I know you posted it.
Yeah, Logan Brannigan, in case you guys did not see it. By the way, Logan, thanks for tuning in. He says, Mammoth WVH was a great debut album. Every song was amazing. I can't wait to see them open for Alter Bridge and Metallica next year. Yeah, I tell you what, man, I'm looking at getting tickets for that Metallica Pantera Mammoth show in Chicago in 2024, and there's a chance I might not make it all the way through Metallica with that lineup.
Gee, only if Mammoth Wolfgang Van Halen was opening for Alter Bridge and it was within driving distance. That would be great if we would have gone to see that.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't stay for Alter Bridge, so I would go back to the hotel.
That's fine. I'll hang out. Don't leave without me.
So I'm not going to pontificate about Van Halen,
Okay.
except to bring up the next record on my list of Desert Island albums. And I had to have some Van Halen because it's me. So this one is the very first cassette that I ever bought with my own money. And I had discovered Van Halen a few years before, and I got some money, and I got a gift certificate to a record store. And my aunt took me shopping, and I bought 3 cassettes. I bought Hysteria, Def Leppard, like we talked about. I bought Aerosmith's Permanent Vacation, and I bought the next record on my list, which is 5150. And I was kind of torn about which. When I think about it, like, I have strong emotional connections to each of the Sammy records for different reasons, and it's like there's something there for me on all of them. But the thing about 5150 for me is, again, it's the very first album I ever bought with my own money, and it really solidified my love of Van Halen. And I'd only heard 1984, and I'd worn it out. And, I saw this new Van Halen record was coming out. I heard, Why Can't This Be Love on the radio. I was like, oh my God, new Van Halen. And I went out and I wore that thing out. I mean, I listened back to the record today, and I can, every little drum fill, every little nuance. And, I could probably quote all 4 of the guys' dialogue and on the inside, the goof track. Like, I can quote that chapter and verse. Like, it's just an absolutely phenomenal record, man. And every song is great, and Dreams is actually my second favorite song of all time. And it's a killer record, man. And I had to have some Van Halen on my list. I could never be on a desert island and not hear Van Halen. And it was a tough choice, but I went with 5150. So 5150 it is.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, man. It's weird. It's only 9 songs. And I was double checking, 43 minutes, of which 4.5 of that is them goofing around on Inside.
Yep.
So literally, it's not even hardly a 40-minute album. But yeah, it's another one of those things like, oh, Sammy Hagar's joining Van Halen. I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or not. Not really too sure. And I don't even know that I didn't hate it, but I don't know that the first time I heard, the hell's the damn it? Why Can't This Be Love?
Yeah.
I don't even know that I was like, this is just weird, like I didn't hate it, and then when I finally heard the rest of the album, I was like, oh my God, I heard, like you said, I heard Dreams, and then I heard Love Walks In. Like, I just love the way he used keyboards on this, to totally fill out and support and still drive songs like those. I think is what sort of sets this apart.
Well, I mean, it shows Eddie as a songwriter that, he comes off of the massive success of the Roth era, and he gets a different singer with a different vibe. The music kind of takes a poppier turn, and the songs still just absolutely shine. And it was just proof that Eddie was the best. And it's, I could see why some of the, if I was growing up with the Roth era, it would be difficult to, it would be difficult to get on board with at times, especially once you get into OU812, because that one's just full on pop. I love OU812, but I can see why a diehard Roth fan would hate it. But 5150 had some amazing guitar stuff, dude. Get Up and Summer Nights and the title track and Best of Both Worlds. So all right, before we get to your next album, we do have a comment from John Toburin. Good to see you, man. He's giving us his list. He says Everclear Sparkle and Fade, Pantera Far Beyond Driven, Eric Church Caught in the Act Live, Huey Lewis and the News Sports, good one, Metallica and Justice for All, that's my I Stole It record, Onto the Island, Our Lady Peace, Clumsy, Steel Panther, All You Can Eat, nice, Frank Sinatra's Greatest Hits, Garth Brooks, The Hits, and the Judgment Night soundtrack. Wow, Judgment Night soundtrack. Good call on that one, dude. That's got some kick-ass stuff on there. I like it.
Yeah, John's an old buddy of mine. That's awesome. He's tuned in. He's his musical tastes are he loves everything, you know. Like awesome pick in there of Our Lady Peace Clumsy. I absolutely love that album. It's one of those bands I really appreciate their approach to songwriting. But yeah,
cool.
I can't go wrong with any of those. Garth Brooks, one of those guys I kind of didn't like at first, and the more I hear of his stuff, it's just I enjoy it. I think he's an incredible performer. You know, it's probably either you like it or you hate it. I doubt there's much middle ground.
Yeah, I'm not a big country guy, but you know, I know you like Garth Brooks, but I don't think Garth Brooks made your list. But I'm sure there's another record coming up that did. I'm full of segues tonight.
You are. I'm going to go to 1991's Bryan Adams, Waking Up the Neighbors. And this is Bryan Adams getting the full Def Leppard treatment.
Yep.
Mutt Lange puts his glorious over-the-top calculated, can you tell I'm reading this? Polishing off every single note and vocal and layer until it's so thick and fat you can barely ingest it. And it's like running down the sides of your mouth with grease. Which is to say, it's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you know what? It's like it's the Def Leppard album that Bryan Adams always wanted to make. Coming off of like Adrenalize is about to come out, I believe, or the same time, and Hysteria, and you could just hear it all over these songs. But yeah, I mean, it's like starts out with "But I'm Gonna Miss You." Some of the big hits were "House Arrest" and "Never Be Another Tonight." Then there's the mellow stuff. If you're a fan of, you know, literally one of the worst accents in movies in history, Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Everything I do, you know, the song is on there. They end the whole album ends with a song called "Don't Drop That Bomb on Me." You'd swear like Def Leppard's like in the studio there, and Joe Elliott's like singing along with it. And but yeah, I don't know, man. Bryan Adams has this weird thing of being able to like, dude, that's the riff you came up with. I could come up with that and play that in 2 seconds. Yeah, but can you make it sound this damn good and turn it into a hit? No.
Yep.
So I'll shut up. I'll shut up right now, right?
Yep.
And he's always kind of had that ability, you know.
Well, I don't have anything to add, unfortunately, because I am not familiar with that record. I have a feeling that more of your stuff will have that effect on me, because, but, I mean, Bryan Adams, the one thing I will say, like, I'm not familiar with a lot of his stuff, besides obviously the really popular stuff, but his voice is awesome. He's got such a unique, just so much gravel, like it almost sounds like it's blown, but he's hitting the notes perfectly. Like I love his voice. So he's just one of those artists I never got into, even though the songs I've heard I enjoyed. So I might have to dig into that one. So if for no other reason than to hear the Def Leppardisms.
Yeah, we saw him live. It was just him and a piano player downtown at a square. It was sold out. It was like 1,500 people. I mean, it was just like dead silence as he's playing and singing every note. You know, he busted out every single hit, did them all acoustic, sounded amazing. It was so, he did this incredible cover. You can find it on Spotify of God Only Knows, Beach Boys. Like, oh my God, it sounded so incredible.
I would have gone to see that with you.
Yeah,
I love seeing intimate stuff like that. And, you know, just to hear, even if I would have known like 3 songs, to hear somebody like that sing in that environment is just amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like one of those theaters and stages too, where I could get up there and sing a note and be like, "Oh, this guy actually isn't that horrible either." You know? I mean, the acoustics help, but yeah, it was just so good. It was one of the few times where, like, if any time someone tried to pull their phone out, it was like, nope, you know. And there was a girl in front of me that had hers up in front of me, and I tapped her on the shoulder, and she was like, "I'm sorry," and she put it away.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to watch this Bryan Adams intimate concert through your phone. Shut that shit off.
Right. So speaking of guys that could sing their asses off, my next choice, and I do have some weird ones on here. So, this is actually the debut album by Chris Daughtry. So I don't know if I would say that Daughtry is a guilty pleasure because it's not as poppy and light as something coming up later on my list, but I absolutely love most of Daughtry's stuff because, again, I love the guy's singing voice. And this record, all the songs are just really catchy, and one of them actually is something that I sang to get my golden ticket into The Voice. So I've got like a kind of a personal connection to that song. It's called Breakdown. If you guys want to check it out, I chose it because it has like the quiet voice and the falsetto voice and then the power voice, and I just love it. But yeah, the first record by Daughtry, it really took me by surprise. I had heard It's Not Over on the radio, and I was like, okay, American Idol, it's just this poppy garbage, but I'll check it out. That song's kind of cool. So I picked up the record, and I absolutely loved it. I was like, holy crap. And then, the next two were great. And then I think it's the fourth one when he starts getting into like the adult contemporary sound, and I'm like,
Oh,
but I actually went to see him. I saw him live with Three Doors Down, and he absolutely wiped the floor with those guys. They closed after him. And then I saw him on a solo tour. He was headlining, I think it was like 2-3 years ago. And he did some of the poppier stuff from the more recent albums, but he did it with a full band, and it just sounds so good. I mean, that guy's voice is, it's outrageous how good that guy is. And I just don't think he gets enough credit. So, the fourth record on my list is the self-titled debut by Daughtry. So are you familiar with it at all, or is this one?
I'm not familiar with the album, but I believe you played me a few songs that I had not heard that were not on the radio. I've always enjoyed his voice. To me, out of all of those shows, The Voice, American Idol, there's only been two people, I believe, that have a valid voice that should be recorded and should be performing. And whether or not you like the music, it doesn't matter. But Kelly Clarkson is one. Is the other. I think the rest of it, including
Carrie Underwood.
I think she is so manufactured and so phony, and her music is so formulaic. It's so bad.
If you don't stop talking about my future ex-wife like that, you and I are going to have problems.
Sorry. Hey, wait till she becomes your ex-wife. I'll say even worse stuff about her. I think she's just so contrived and so like, I've just got to put as much power behind everything and prance around in high heels. And there's no feeling, there's no emotion to any of it. But I do feel that in Daughtry's voice, there's a power, there's a uniqueness. And I think, I'm totally fine with that choice. Man, speaking of some interesting choices, okay, check out this from Daniel Nevarez Araujo.
Right,
I'm trying to be Hispanic here.
I was waiting for you to try to read that. I'm not going to get any, but yeah, Daniel Nevarez Araujo. I think it's Araujo, but yeah. So all right. So and this is all over the place. This is cool.
This is why I like this kind of show. Look at this list. We have Bela Fleck and the Flecktones.
But it's actually Bella.
Okay. We have Bela Fleck and the Flecktones.
Yeah, so Live Art Extreme, yeah.
God.
The Live Art Extreme, 3 sides to every story. There you go.
Yep.
A Man After, yep. Dream Theater Octavarium, Tool 10,000 Days, Deer Hunter, Color Spectrum.
I don't know what that is, do you?
I'm not familiar, no.
Okay.
Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life,
Yeah.
Leprous, wow. The Congregation, Pearl Jam 10, Genesis, Selling England by the Pound, and Meshuggah, Obzen. Damn.
That is an awesome list.
I feel like my list sucks now compared to that. Like, that's all diverse and cool.
Okay.
And
I swear to God, I have absolutely no idea who this guy is. I think he's a new listener and very, very cool. I'm not kidding. Number 7 on my list. These aren't ranked. It's just number 7.
Okay.
Stream 3 sides to every story, 1992.
Now you're doing a segue.
Yeah. I mean, that is weird. That is very, very weird.
I know you love this record, though, so talk a little bit about it.
Again, I absolutely love this record, man. 3 sides to the album, technically. Your side, my side, and the truth. Side 1, super duper heavy. Warheads, Rest in Peace, Political Calamity. You got some of the funk type stuff that they're known for off of Porno Graffiti and Cupid's Dead. Peacemaker Die gets heavy again. There's some Queen mixed in there. Second side starts getting mellower towards the end because Tragic Comic, real Beatlesy. song I think I tried to get you to listen to before I was going to, and I don't know if I ever sent it to you. Our Father, absolutely love the vocals and guitar on that song. It's almost like a round in a way. And Stop the World was kind of, I guess, the only hit on there. And that goes into the very last part of it's called Everything Under the Sun, parts 1, 2, and 3, where they have a 70-piece orchestra going with the band. And it's just a huge, massive undertaking. Sounds 70s-ish, but just so much melody for days. And I think one of the most criminally, I won't say it's underrated, but there's a difference between underrated and overlooked, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we confuse the two. It's like, oh, it's especially like even with Dream Theater. Oh, well, this album's underrated. Well, no, it's not. It's Dream Theater. It's overlooked maybe, but it's not underrated, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a very criminally overlooked album, and I'm so glad that this dude put his on his list along with all his other great ones.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with it. I Extreme is a band I've tried to get into, and it just hasn't really hit for me. So I'm not overly.
No,
I know Porno Graffiti a little bit, but
like Toto, it's like you hear more than words, and you're like, you hear Africa, like, oh, that's like, no, that's not. It's such a horrible representation of what the bands really are, And yeah, and the other interesting thing about this is this was entirely basically produced by Nuno Betancourt, which I guess I didn't know at the time. I mean, so not only is the guy just a monster player, great singer, composer, arranger, and yeah, he produced this as well.
Oh, all right. Well, speaking of guys who produce, the next record on my list is the first record by Bruno Mars, of all people, Doo-Wops and Hooligans. It's another guy. I love his voice. I'm not a big fan of this of his stuff after the first record because it kind of gets, too much of the, hip hop type, lyrics and stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But the first record, man, all the songs are great. There's only one song I really don't like. But I mean, the rest of it is just phenomenal. I actually, there's a kind of like a reggae tune on there called Liquor Store Blues that I sing a ton of when I do acoustic shows. And I love Bruno Mars's voice, man. And there's like, he gets so much feel in there. And if you're into that stuff at all, he has put out some acoustic versions of some of the songs on the record, and they're really, really good. So it's just, I guess you could call Bruno one of my kind of guilty pleasures. Like I would never go see him live just because there's not enough material there that I would get into. But the songs on this first record are just really great and really catchy. And going back to something I said about Daughtry, one of the Bruno songs on this record is the other thing that I sang to get into, to get my golden ticket, to get into The Voice. When I tried out in Philadelphia, I sang the chorus for Grenade, the opening track. So kind of a personal connection there with that. Every time I hear that song, I'm kind of like, wow, man, like it just brings me back to being in that audition room with, 9 other singers and a couple producers and stuff. And it's just a good memory to have, you know what I mean? So it's definitely something that's kind of close to my heart and everything. And I just really enjoy the rest of the record. So yeah, Bruno Mars, Doo-Wops and Hooligans is the what my 5th one on there now? Yep, the 5th record that I have chosen. So what do you have?
Real quick to piggyback on that, man, I'd never heard Liquor Store Blues before until I heard you singing it, and I was like, what the hell song is that? You sound awesome on it, dude. You sound amazing on it. And I listened to it, I was like, this is a great song, man.
It's
so
weird.
Yeah, I'm not shocked you put that on there because I know how much you like that from what I've been told.
Yeah, it's such a catchy record, and I listen to it all the time still. So, all right. So the 5th one on your list is
basically in that same vein. I'm going to 2013's Kill Switch Engage, Disarm the Descent. So this is one of those bands that I don't understand why you can't get into, but I guess it doesn't matter. We all have our...
I just haven't listened to them a lot.
Okay.
So
this is the return of Jesse Leach after Howard Jones leaves, and I've long been on record as I don't think there's a more powerful voice in metal than Howard Jones belting at the top of his lungs in a clean vocal style. It sends chills down my spine. And the first couple albums that had the original singer Jesse Leach were more hardcore, metalcore, whatever you want to call it. He wasn't doing a lot of singing; it's mostly screaming. Well, he comes back on this one, and man, it's just loaded with melody, and he just sings with such incredible power. And the clean parts, there's still a little rasp to them, but the choruses are just. I mean, I don't know how. I've seen them live. I'm trying to figure if it's twice or three times now. And the guy I don't know how he does it live. I literally have no idea. I mean, I can't. I mean, the power that he puts into these songs, but there's so much melody, and the way that Adam D bounces these guitars around with these incredible, metal harmonies on them. It's like this perfect mix of growls and screams, huge choruses, these breakdowns, and they just have this art form of these chugging guitars, and then they put enough of the little metal harmonies in there. It's a Maiden-y Queensryche kind of thing sort of mashed in there, but it's metal. And they never give you a song that's more than 3.5, 4 minutes, maybe. They know when to cut their losses. They almost always have a breakdown in the middle, but I don't know, like the hits on here, In Due Time, slow song called Always, which I think was a tribute to somebody's brother in the band. But I mean, just a song called The Turning Point, tribute to the fallen. These are just big giant anthems that they still play like half of this album when they tour, because it was just such a return to. It was a return, but it was also kind of a new beginning for the band, and they were able to take the success that Howard kind of brought them to and bring Jesse back and even go forward with that. And he's talented enough now that he can sing some of the Howard stuff too.
Right.
But man, just one of those albums. I don't know. There's no skippers on it for me. I can listen to it when I'm running, listen to it when I'm in the car, listen to it when I just want to get pumped up, when I'm practicing for my stupid outdoor hockey I play in this adult hockey league. Like,
nice.
I blast it up and I'm out there blasting slap shots, with my plastic ball and stick,
Right.
I don't know. It just pumps me up, and just seeing them live twice now, they just don't disappoint.
Well, going back to a record you mentioned earlier, before I move on with my list, Logan Brannigan says 3 Sides of Every Story has a lot of great songs. The 3-song suite is masterful. I'm not a huge fan of the snare sound on the album, though. Not as bad as Saint Anger, but not a fan of it. So
yeah,
I'll have to go back and listen for that snare now.
Nothing's in that level.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Everyone calls it a trash can, but I've heard better trash cans. So,
yeah.
But speaking of trash, my next list could be considered Hollywood trash, and this album is considered one of the greatest debut albums of all time, and I think it sold something like 20 million copies or more. It's like double diamond or something insane. But I'm going with Appetite for Destruction. Again, this is just a record that I think is basically perfect. Every song is just incredible. And again, the theme on my list is, I realized, is melody. And as we talked about, like an emotional connection or a very strong memory or feeling. Like I'm getting a strong emotion or feeling when I listen to the record. I'm one of those people that, like, my first listening experience, like my surroundings, emotionally and physically kind of imprint themselves on me, so that when I listen down the road, I kind of get that feeling back. And it's to the point where, like, when a record comes out now by a band I like, I specifically pick a place to go driving around where I know it's like I like the place. Like, it's generally the metro parks, for example. Like, I'll drive in the metro parks and just kind of like take that around and listen to the new record that I buy. And Appetite came out in 87, so I was like 11. And it was one of those records that, of course, I was not allowed to get. And my dad would have kicked he was already pissed off I was listening to rock music of any kind. But if I showed up with this thing with skulls on the cover, and I'd have been screwed. But a buddy of mine at school had it, and he ripped a copy. He ripped a copy of it for me, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh my God, this is good. Because when I heard Welcome to the Jungle on Headbangers Ball, I was just hooked. I was like, holy God, is that good? Yep. And then, 11-year-old kid, and I'm on the bus listening to. We were on a field trip when he gave it to me. We're on this class field trip, and the second song comes in. It's so easy. And those lyrics come in, back up. I got a use for you. Besides, you ain't got nothing better to do, and I'm bored. And this kind of thing. And I'm a kid. I'm going, oh my God, I'm listening to stuff I would be in so much trouble if my dad knew I was listening to it. So I felt dangerous listening to it and everything. But as the years went by, and I got so even more into the album, you just realize like what an incredibly well written album that it is. And one of my favorite things to do is to kind of listen to it with like one earbud out and kind of listen to it with the left ear and then listen to it again with the right ear. Because Izzy and Slash are always doing something different.
Yep.
And like the riffs that you can sing to, like you sing the main riff, it's actually two separate guitars doing two separate things to combine to make that riff. And like I've always loved that about the album. And it's like dirty and heavy, but there's so much melody to it. And you could just sing every chorus, and man, like My Michelle is just one of the sludgiest things I've ever heard, and I just love that song. So Appetite for me is a record that I just can't let go of. It's so good. And quick funny story, it's kind of Out to Get Me is kind of like a joke in my cover band a little bit, because my drummer, when he was told the story when he was a kid, at the end when he's like, I'm fucking innocent, he thought he said I'm fucking air sick. so now whenever if I blow a lyric on stage, you'll hear one of the guys holler out, I'm fucking air sick. Like, and so it's become kind of like an inside joke with our band about that song. But yeah, so Appetite for Destruction, man, I love it. I'm quite sure that you enjoy it as well.
I would have to skip over Sweet Child of Mine. I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'll still hear Welcome to the Jungle, but I will skip Sweet Child of Mine. I could probably get through half of Paradise City is too. But
look who's checking in. Adam Rishaw. He says, hola, gentlemen. Been too long. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for checking out the show, dude. Hope all is well with you. So, anyways, yeah, Appetite for Destruction. I derailed us with Adam. An old friend tunes in, and
no, it's cool. That's great to hear him. I'm going to mention him and his awesome podcast as we get towards the end of my list here.
Okay.
We'll see.
What is next on your list?
Next on my list, I have the 1989 self-titled, which they only did 2 albums, Bad English. I got to get my John Waite.
I didn't know they only have 2 albums. This is another band I'm not familiar with.
So yeah, only had 2 albums. That was the one of those where, depending on who you believe, I guess John Waite Neil Schon and Jonathan came to blows. I don't know if this was what Journey was sort of off and on still, and maybe they just got sick of being around each other or something. But because it was like, well, John had problems, and John's like, no, that was with Neil and Jonathan. It had nothing to do with me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, so the leadoff track is from the incredible 1980 something movie, or 1990 movie, I guess, something, Tango and Cash. It plays at the end there, Best of What I Got. Love that song, man. It's got real cool synth brass parts, just driving. I don't know. It's just a big giant, ball of like Neil Schon's fat melodic AOR riffing. It's Forget Me Not was, I think, the first single. Really cool, kind of a Bon Jovi, heavier Springsteen thing called The Restless Ones. Heaven is a 4-letter word. It's a really cool song. Then they have this killer ballad, like When I See You Smile. Price of Love, that was another minor hit. The album ends with a song called Don't Walk Away, which I think Diane Warren, who's like a famous, she's written like 8 million songs with Hart and Richard Marx and stuff. It never went anywhere, but it's just a really cool ballad. It has kind of a late 80s feel to it. But I love everything on, like Dean Castronova's on the drums on this one too. And I don't know, man, just one of those bands I wish I had got a chance to see live, because I think they only toured for maybe parts of 1 or 2 years, if that. And yeah, just a great overall album. If you like, just really kind of polished I don't want to call it pop metal, but heavy pop rock, I guess is the word, you know, and in that
Yeah.
Bon Jovi Journey feel, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm not familiar with them. I thought they had a longer discography than just two records.
Yeah, no, they just made the two, and then I think it was like something. I almost think it was more like, oh, we should probably get back to this thing called Journey, you know.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even know that it was guys in Journey in that thing. So
Yeah,
shows what the hell I know.
yeah.
So moving on my list, I have another live record, and again, the band is going to be completely obvious, but again, you want to talk about an emotional connection to a record. I am going with 1993's incredible double live album by Van Halen, Live Right Here, Right Now. And I don't give a shit if people say, oh, well, it was done in the studio. They went and redid everything, yada, yada. If you've seen Van Halen live with Sammy Hagar, you know that they could have pulled that off. And that, re-recording it was just to get things perfect. However, they were money in the bank live with Sammy Hagar. So, it's got most of the songs from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, which is just that's another record I could have easily put on this list for a couple different reasons. The couple tracks from 0812 are awesome. They got a couple of the Roth, songs on there. It's so powerful. And again, for me, this one is kind of I always say that this is probably my favorite gift that I've ever been given, because when this record came out, I was 17 and my younger brother was 14. And I could tell you where we were driving. We're driving on Westwood Avenue, I think it is, in Strongsville, Ohio. It was like going right past where our cousins lived. And on the radio, my mom's driving, my brother and I are in the car. And on the radio, the DJ's like, and here's a new one from Van Halen from their upcoming live record, right? I'm like, oh my God. And then, Pound Cake comes in, and I was just absolutely shitting myself. Like, I was like, oh my God, Van Halen has a live record. And so I'm busy freaking out. So the record came out right around my birthday. I don't remember the exact release date, but I get home from school one day, and it was right about my birthday, and my brother and I shared a room. And I had one of those boom boxes, with the CD player and the dual tape deck, and it had the removable speakers. Well, my dad had bought new speakers for his big ass sound system, and he gave me his big tall JBLs, the old ones. And so I took the speakers off of the boom box and put the wire into the JBLs. So we had this awesome sound system thing in our room. So I get home from school, and my brother's like, hold on. So I'm like, all right. So we go upstairs, and he goes, wait in the hall. I said, okay. So he goes, all right, come on in. And he grabs me, he stands me in front of the CD player, and he hits play. I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden, the thing fades in here. Hello, baby. I'm like, oh my God, it's the Van Halen live record. And he hands it to me. He's like, happy birthday. I've been saving my allowance for like 2 months to buy it for you. And I still, I should have grabbed it, but I have it right on top of my mini fridge up here with my my 1984 record and my Injustice for All record. And it's still the official, like the one I was given as a gift, and I carry that. The CDs have long since been stolen and stuff, and the case is all beat up. But that is my favorite gift I've ever been given, because my brother worked so hard to get. He was so excited to get it to me because he knows, even back then he knew how like Van Halen's like everything for me. So, kind of a long story, but that's why I picked it. And it's I figure if I'm on a desert island, it's good to like kind of have those memories, kind of brought up. So.
That's very cool. Now, question: is there a video for that recording or no?
Yes, and they recorded it for the two shows that they it was somewhere in California. I can't remember where, but people shit on that too because they use footage from both nights. Okay. And the guys didn't wear the same clothes, so you'll be like in the middle of a song, and like all of a sudden they'll like change clothes in the middle of a verse. But it still rocks, man. And I have that, of course, and oh God, it's just so good.
Because I don't know if I've seen that Live Without a Net, but I don't know if I've seen this other one. I wonder if it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's out there. The whole show's out there.
Yeah.
Adam Rishog says, let's get this out of the way. One of my albums would be Scenes from a Memory by some shitty band called Dream Theater. So you guys are lucky because you can put Dream Theater records on your list. Brian came up with the rules, and we were not allowed to use Dream Theater records. So
You went chipmunk there for a second, but you're back now.
oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, my bad. When I move into my new house here in a few weeks, I'm hoping that this won't be an issue anymore. But so all right. So what is next on your list of desert island albums?
All right. The only person that might appreciate or even know who this is, I believe, is our buddy Discuss Metal Joe. Was it his name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is a band from St. Louis, 1991's band Pale Divine. Now, not to be confused, I did double check on Spotify to see if they're on there. I have the CD. They are not. If you put in Pale Divine, you're going to get like this death metal band.
Okay. Is this a local band or?
This was a local St. Louis band that had it actually had an album on Atlantic Records.
Okay.
And they were originally called The Eyes. Going back to Guns N' Roses, they featured at the time an original member who has been a touring member of that band forever now, Richard Fortus.
Really? Okay.
Actually, he was the original guitar player in The Eyes and Pale Divine. And I don't know that you would necessarily dig this album. I think you would appreciate the songwriting. It's kind of a mix of U2 meets the Psychedelic Furs meets Toad the Wet Sprocket. It's kind of these haunting, jangling, echoey guitars. I really love the singer. It's very Psychedelic Furs. Also, Richard Fortus went on to form a band called Love Spit Love, which I absolutely love. It was kind of a similar thing with that sort of thing, but they also had like the echoey guitars, more like The Cure, and enough little keyboards things going on here and there. You would absolutely hate the guy's voice.
Okay.
I know that you would hate the guy's voice on Love Spit Love. You might be okay with this guy's voice in Pale Divine, but yeah, one of those bands that I don't know. There's not a single bad song on it. It's like one of those where it's one of those albums where you're like, I know it's coming next. I can't wait. I don't want to leave this song. I can't wait till next one. It's just one of those songs for me like that. And I think it's like 10 songs total. They had one video, I believe. I think it was for a song called My Addiction or another song called The Fog. It was on that. What was that show? Was it 120 Minutes? You remember that? That was like the alternative MTV.
Oh yeah.
I think they somehow got on there, but they came out at a time when grunge was coming, and I don't think anyone had any remote idea what to do with them, so they probably never even had any type of a prayer. The original singer still plays around St. Louis, and I think they've tried to do reunion shows once in a while. But yeah, it's Pale Divine. It's called Straight to Goodbye. They literally have one CD on a major label. I don't think they ever did anything else. I have the CD, thank God, because otherwise I would. You know what? Another thing that really hit me when doing this, I ended up going through my whole CD collection, and I realized, man, I miss the old days. I'm gonna sound like get off my lawn guy here, but I miss going and buying CDs, and having that product and like seeing that and being excited and not like, oh, well, we leaked the first 9 songs now. Well, there's no point in me buying it. I mean, I'll go full disclosure here. I haven't even bought a Dream Theater album since The Astonishing because I just haven't gone and bought them, I mean, does that make me a horrible fan? I mean, I've supported
Yes.
Hey, I've gone to the concerts. I bought the merch.
Look, man, if you want your favorite bands to keep making music,
I know.
you pay them to do so.
I know. Well, in the past, I used to download Alter Bridge. I pay to download all their albums and stuff, and I should, I guess, go back and pay Dream Theater to download the albums. But I don't know. I have the monthly Spotify thing, and I feel guilty about it. But I'm just like, you know what I mean? Though I miss that. I think we're all missing that sort of era. It's hard to sort of unring that bell and go back to all that. As much as I want to get into vinyl and stuff,
that's actually where I was going to go. Is that, I mean, I'm getting into collecting the vinyl of my favorite bands, so like that's kind of like cool for me. Like I'm looking for sealed copies. Like I could easily go and get an open copy of all the stuff. Like I want 5150 and 0812. Like could I go get like a $10 open copy at the record exchange? Yeah, I can do that. but I'm looking for, like, I found a sealed unopened copy of 5150. It's like $150, and I'm like, well, that's what I'm going to start doing, because it's kind of, for me, it has replaced going to the record stores and stuff like that. So, but yes, you're a very shitty fan for not buying the records. If your favorite band puts out a record, pay for the goddamn thing. I stream everything too, but if it's a band I absolutely love, like a Dream Theater or a Van Halen, or especially like a Seven Dust, a band on that level, I'm buying the record. I'm actually putting some money into their coffers.
We did.
But
We both bought the Labrie on vinyl.
Yep.
I bought the Michael Romeo on vinyl. I think that was the last physical product. Now I have paid to download the basically all of the Kill Switch albums and all of the Alter Bridge albums up until the newest one.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I really wish. I don't know. I wish we could kind of go back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned physical product, and it's kind of ironic. You mentioned, like, you have kind of a local band on your list, and you mentioned they had a song, something about addiction, and I'm about to do something incredibly, what could be considered incredibly self-serving. Hopefully you don't consider it so, but yeah.
I know where this is going.
I'm going with a local Cleveland band called APG, their sole record called This Brutal Addiction. And I've got the album cover on the screen. And for anybody wondering, this is my band. But I'm doing this for a reason. So if you guys want to listen to this, it is on Spotify and Amazon Music and stuff. It's our full record, and there are we did a 3-song demo before we did the full record. So it's the full record, then the demo, and there is a hidden track. We got asked to do a theme song for a local cable show called The Unsigned, and so we did a theme song for that, and that's the bonus track. But anyway, I'm not doing this as you got to check my band out. Like, this record came out in 2007. It was the only record we ever did. We actually recorded 2 songs after this, and the videos for those are on YouTube. They're called Wish in One Hand, and the other one's called Angel No More. I played bass, and I did the backing vocals in APG, so I was not the lead singer. There's a couple lead parts I did, but there's a lot of harmony vocals all over this, because it's a combination of a band called Another Path and then my band Gatlin, after both those bands stopped at basically the same time, so that's why it's APG. And we had 2 guitar players, we had a drummer, and we had 2 lead singers but no bass player. And I was like, well, I play bass, and like, I have a higher range than the other singers, so this works out perfectly. I'll play bass and do harmonies. And we just decided, hey, let's throw harmonies all over this goddamn thing. Like, let's just abuse the 2 lead singer thing. But the reason it's on my list is not, again, I'm not trying to promote, my record, but I'm very self-deprecating in anything I do musically. I've got 4 Gatlin records, and my little claim to fame is that I showcased for 15 major record companies in March of 2003, New York City, and I got real close to getting the deal and everything like that. I got to do some really cool stuff, but I always heard the flaws in the music that we wrote. And the APG record, for me, I love the songs on it, and it's the one thing I can look at and go, okay, that's actually, I'm proud of this. Like, I'm proud of the things that I wrote, and the things that I put on there, because there's a lot of immediacy to it, I think, because we basically decided after the whole Gatlin thing and writing songs to try and get, we were shopping and worrying, was it good enough for other people? We just went, fuck this, we're going to write a heavy record that we like. And this is what came out, and I'm really proud of it. And some of the stuff that I put out that's on this record, I think really stands up. And the production is not what I want it to be, because the engineer was incredibly lazy. But yeah, I have this on here just because it's again, emotional connection. This holds a ton of great memories for me, dude, because I'm just it's the one thing I can actually sit back and go, okay, maybe I have somewhat of a clue of what I'm doing. And I like listening to it for that reason, because I could spend a whole show telling stories about writing certain songs and certain parts, and all the different things that we put on here that are very subtle. But yeah, I mean, sorry to pull my own record out, but I wanted something like that was I if I'm on a desert island, I want memories, and I want something that I can emotionally tie myself to. And That record for me is every time I listen to it, which granted it's not often, but I'm just really proud of it, and I enjoy what's on there, and I always wanted to write something that I was really proud of, and I hadn't nailed it outside of like maybe one or two songs prior to that, and I'm proud of that whole record. So you don't have to talk about it because it's me, but
I have one thing to say. No,
yeah.
no, no.
Like
I swear I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, man. That song, "The Symptom," I think that's the coolest fucking song one of the coolest songs I've ever heard in my life, man. I don't know if
Thank you,
I've ever
man.
told you before. Like, I love Dave's voice.
I do too. I do
Dave,
too.
if you're listening, I know you do a duo out there, sometimes a solo. If you ever need a piano keyboard player, Dave. Hi, Dave. What are you doing, Dave?
He would totally do it. I'm telling you, man.
Put in a good word for me, man. I'd love to play with that guy.
That'd be easy.
I love. I don't know, man. There's something about his voice, and it's very unique. I don't know. It just sounds like it sounds sort of effortless, although I know it's not effortless. But it's very hard to have somebody local send you. And I remember when you did the other two new songs, you actually sent me copies.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember if I had already heard. I think I had already heard this. So I figured it was going to be good, but it's kind of those things like, oh, here's a couple new things I do with my buddies. Like, check it out, and you're like, oh boy. Dude,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Like, everybody, check out this APG stuff. Like, and those other two songs you said are on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah, they're called "Wish in One Hand" and "Angel No More."
Yeah,
and
I remember
again,
Angel No More. That was a killer song too. I love that song. I was like, oh my god, you guys did this, and it sounded like a pro thing that should be, that you guys should have been Tour 7 Dust or something. Like, I mean, I thought it was good. And again, I'm not just, and I'm jealous in a way because you have something like this, and I really don't have anything, and it's fine, but this is very cool. Like, this is good stuff. Check out APG, Brutal Addiction. Check out The Symptom for sure. I mean, the rest of it's great too. But
thank you, man. Yeah, dude, Dave was awesome at writing melodies, and he and I produced the vocals, and I mean, he and I just had this sense of melody. He wrote stuff immediately that was just so catchy, and I think all the choruses like are just really really big, and I'm trying to get a hold of the tapes. I'm trying to track down the engineer because he kind of had a falling out with our guitar player who engineered it with him, and haven't seen him in years. But I want to reamp this stuff and give it modern production. There's nothing I could do about the vocals, but the guitars and drums, I would love to have them big and fat because I think this record would just absolutely slam. There's some heavy stuff on here.
It's funny too because like when I think about that Wolfgang Van Halen, I'm like, that's what this is. Like, you know what I mean? Like you nailed it. You said immediate. I'm always a fan of like stuff that like right away hits you. Like, wow, like, it's not superly overcomplicated, but again, it goes back to that. Okay, yeah, John, I could have came up with that riff and that melody line, but I couldn't have put them together the way you guys did. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying it's simplistic in any way either, but yeah, it's a cool project, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, well, and enough about me. Like I say, I'm not trying to self promote, but
Great.
All right. So what do you have next on your list? We're already an hour and 17 minutes in, and we still have a couple more apiece.
Oh my god, I have what is becoming possibly one of my favorite pieces of just recorded music and art of all time, and people might laugh, and that's 2009's 30 Seconds to Mars, This Is War.
Wow, okay.
I think it is just an absolute masterpiece. I'll never forget the first time I heard Kings and Queens, and it was like one of the rare times I had MMS on, and I think it was like 11 at night when they play their supposed new music, which means most of the time, whatever they play on there, they'll never play again, if you're lucky,
Yeah.
But this was such a huge hit. But I remember like, and I don't even know if I knew for sure what they were saying in the chorus. So I was like trying to search. I'm like, what the hell? Because I didn't get the name of the band. I didn't get the name of the song, and I'm like, this is the most epic sounding. Like, it had a very, I'll say almost a Def Leppard, just in the massive scale of those vocals and everything. You know what I mean? It had a Gods of War feel to me. You know what I mean? Like it just like, I don't know. It's one of those songs I can never get tired of it. I don't care how many times I hear it. Like, and then you go like with the title track on there, and one of my favorite songs of all time is that I guess you pronounce it Vox Populi. Absolutely love that song.
Okay.
the way they're able to mix keyboards in there. That Night of the Hunter has that synth. It's called it's like a synclavier sound. It's the same sound that's in Why Can't This Be Love? It's like that
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's in the Cars. Whatever the hell, Let's Go. That same sound is in there, but they somehow
Okay.
they just put that in a 5-minute song. And I don't know. Jared Leto's vocals are they're just otherworldly, and it's just a band that I don't know what they're doing now. I feel like they totally lost their way or just don't give a shit. But for that moment in time, that snapshot of that entire album, I think is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Leto is a complete weirdo, so I'm always a little hesitant. Like, I'm never a big fan of guys that are just complete creeps, just strange, odd dudes. It's weird
Right.
to me. But I will say, like, I'm not overly familiar with 30 Seconds to Mars, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It is, and some of the stuff the guy sings is just like, I don't know how the guy gets through a live performance, because some of the notes he hits are just brutal, and he holds them out. I mean, man, it's
Yeah. That album
Adam.
and the album before that I love too, but
Okay, so Adam Rishog says Jared Leto better singer than actor. Oh man, I am not familiar enough with the 30 Seconds to Mars stuff to comment.
the only thing I've really ever seen him in acting wise was that Dallas Buyers Club. He was really good in that, but then in that whatever that Marvel movie was that Marvel?
Morbius. Yeah,
Okay,
Morbius. I haven't seen that one yet.
yeah, that's been absolutely destroyed. I don't know if it's because of him or just the movie itself, but
Yeah. Well, I know he was in Blade Runner 2049, which is a stupidly underrated, fantastic movie. What the God, it was. Oh, he was he porked himself up to play the guy who shot Lennon.
oh yeah,
So that was him.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark
Yeah,
David Chapman.
I mean, he's a really talented actor.
I'm gonna say better actor than musician, because he's had more success. So let's just go let's just go by popular success. I'm gonna say actor, Adam. So, all right. So I just have a couple left here. So, Chastity Crawley's chiming in. Good to see you again, Chastity. By the way, I'm going to email you and set up a test broadcast so we can do our fan hangout thing when you co-host with me. Chastity says, if I had to pick an album that I could listen to repeatedly that isn't Dream Theater, it would be Once by Nightwish. I've never listened to Nightwish. Have you? That's sort of like stuff seems to be like more in your wheelhouse.
I would like to get into it a little bit more. I forget the name of the keyboard player who kind of sort of orchestrates that whole thing. He's an incredible player. It all sort of has that symphonic metal.
Was it that Timo guy or something? Timo Tolkien or whatever?
I don't even want to try to
it?
say for sure because I'll be wrong. So, but I know he kind of leads the whole thing. Well, I know Nightwish, I think, is now like on their third singer, maybe. But they're I mean, that's one of those bands that they can sell out smaller places here, but I mean, they're just massive in Europe. I mean, they just crush it.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to. Yeah, I have not heard any. I'm looking in my. I'm looking in my playlist here on Amazon Music, and I'm not seeing any of it.
Yeah,
so
there was Endless Forms Most Beautiful. I think I've heard some stuff from that. I think that was an album. I don't know. They have some live stuff too. Yeah, it's a really cool band. I mean, it's huge. It's like operatic symphonic metal with the chick singing.
Okay, we'll have to check that out at some point. I did. Adam's asking about APG in the chat, so I did put the YouTube link to Angel No More in there if anybody wants to check that out later. So I do have two left, and these are probably, I don't know if you could say they're the wonkiest ones because I just pulled my own record out, but
right.
So this is going to be a surprise one, I think, to maybe everybody, because this is probably something no one would expect me to listen to because it's really mellow. But I'm going with a band called Vertical Horizon, and they had one huge record, and it's called Everything You Want. And the subsequent record wasn't nearly as big, but I think I kind of prefer it in a way. It's called Go. But Everything You Want was a record that came along at a time that I was going through. I was being dumped by a girl that I was just absolutely insane about. And so like half of this record is like kind of like melancholy and I wish I could get you back, or you broke my heart type of thing. Is like, so I really identified with it, and it was really, really, it just, God, I hate using this term, but it kind of like filled a void at that time for me. It was like, I would go play shows with my band, and I would have my face melted all night long by these other bands we were playing with, and my band's just up there, playing metal, and I would be driving home, and I want to listen to something mellow, but I was also all sad and bummed out. And so this Vertical Horizon record had come along, and I'd heard the radio singles, and I just really got into it. And it's all the songs are really catchy. The lead singer Matt, God, why am I forgetting everything important tonight?
Matt
But
Scanlon.
thank you. He dude, he's an awesome songwriter.
Yep.
And I just love it, dude. It's catchy, it's mellow. There's some kind of rock moments on there, but it's it's more of like a pop rock type of thing, and it's a record that I've always really, really enjoyed. So take my metalhead card if you must, but Vertical Horizon, Everything You Want, I love it, and I always flash back to those times in like my early to mid 20s when I was just absolutely heartbroken. And then again, the record after that, it's called Go, is really good if you want to check that out. So I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but I actually saw them live at the House of Blues one time, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. They were excellent live. I was not prepared for how good they were musically. So
Yeah, great band. I love those songs. We Are and You're a God. Have you seen the videos of Matt Scanlon singing with Richard Marx on those?
Yeah.
Oh my God, those like give me goosebumps. Those are
Yep.
so good. So good. Yeah, so great. Well, if you thought you went the mellow route, you've got nothing on me. I'm going to go back to 1993's double album, James Taylor Live.
Wow.
To me, there is no greater singer-songwriter that's ever walked this planet, and there never will be, than one Mr. James Taylor. I remember I did not know basically anything whatsoever about James Taylor other than hearing Fire and Rain, and my dad had some of his albums. And in one of my old bands, the drummer, we were on our way to Put-in-Bay to play the famous Roundhouse, which we played every summer for, I don't know, 5-6 years that I was in the band. And he had a cassette player, and he's like playing this, and I was like, that sounds like James Taylor. He's like, yeah. And he had the cassette or whatever. And so I went out literally, like, I think as soon as we got back, and I bought the CDs. I'm just like, man, the guy's voice is just butter. And I mean, the songs are all just classics, and you sing along to them, Carolina in My Mind, Sweet Baby James, Fire and Rain, Secret of Life, Country Road, Shower the People. I mean, they're all like, oh yeah, I've heard that. Oh, I've heard that. Just a hit making machine. And I don't know, there's nobody more down to earth that has that much talent in their body than that guy, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a really great self-deprecating sense of humor. And one of my bucket lists, I do want to get out to see him. Like, it'd be cool to go see him at Blossom or something, like sit on the lawn and get some wine or something, like.
Yep.
But,
that's definitely like a let's mellow out type of an evening.
Yeah, it's mellow out, but he's got some songs that groove a little bit too. But yeah, it's just one of those, like, I don't know, I could sit down with a lot of his songs, and it's another thing cool I like about him is, like, I can figure it out on the piano. Like, oh, I'll play this acoustic guitar song, I'll bang that on piano and sound nowhere near as good, but I'm singing away and enjoying it and having fun, and trying to put a little bit of my own spin on it. And it's one of the few kind of guys I can do that with. And yeah, just mad respect for James Taylor.
Yeah, I couldn't name you a James Taylor song to save my life, but the one thing that I will say is that all of his stuff, like you've talked about songs, throughout the show that sound so simple, and like, oh, I could play that, but if you did, it wouldn't sound anywhere near
Yeah.
what the actual artist is doing. And I think there's a lot to be said about a guy like James Taylor that has had this career for decades, and the songs are so simple but they're so timeless. And there it's just this consistency to his material. And I kind of always when I think of him, I think of a guy like Jimmy Buffett, where it's almost like because a lot of my friends are actually into James Taylor, and it's kind of like the Dream Theater fan base, where you're kind of like almost in this little club. You know what I mean? It's just
Yep.
obviously James Taylor is a lot bigger than that. And the Parrot Heads with
Right.
Jimmy Buffett, and it's cool. It's like it's this like community, like the Deadheads used to be and stuff like that. And I just think there's something so cool about that. So, and to be able to vibe out to music like that, like you said, just go to Blossom and get some wine and just kind of just get into it. I think that's really cool. And again, career longevity of that sort is always fascinating to me, and I give anybody a lot of credit for that. Except for a couple bands that really suck, and I wish they'd go away, but I won't mention them. So,
Motley Crue.
no, I can tolerate Motley Crue, but yeah, I won't. Rolling Stones. Hate the Rolling Stones. Also hate Pink Floyd, but I can't say that on this show. So there you go. Two bands that did not make my list.
Right.
So, all right. Well, I have one more. And this is going to be an interesting one as well. This is an all instrumental album, and anybody who's listened to the show for any amount of time knows that I also have a nerd podcast called the Nerf Herder Council,
Oh,
and
here we go.
it is it's Star Wars based, but we talk about all nerd stuff. But the first several years of the show were all Star Wars, and even if I'm on a desert island, I've got to have my Star Wars fix. And it was a toss-up for me. But in the end, I have to go with where it all started because everyone can sing these songs. I'm going with the motion picture soundtrack to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It was close. I was about to pick Revenge of the Sith because I love that soundtrack too. But you got to go with A New Hope, man. Like it's the one movie soundtrack, at least for me, where you can hear the soundtrack in order and you know exactly what's happening on the screen because the music is that ingrained into your memory, and it's so strong. And I don't know, it's like I say, it might be kind of cheesy to choose a Star Wars soundtrack, but again, for me, if I'm on a desert island, I've got to have my Star Wars fix. And when the whole thing kicks in, you know exactly what's happening. You can, like you could picture the Star Destroyer going over and trying to blow up the Tantive 4, and obviously the Cantina theme, and Binary Sunset and stuff like that. You just know exactly what's happening because the movie is just so iconic and the soundtrack is just so iconic. They blend together so well. And oh my God, what is that? What? Okay, so this is terrible for the audio listeners, but it's terrible for everybody because you're muted.
I showed you this before, didn't I?
No, you mentioned it, but you never showed it to me. So
Yeah.
What is that? It's the story of Star Wars. What is that? Wait. Is that
So-
like a vinyl record that's like
Yep.
actually
Yeah,
like with movie dialogue and
Falling
stuff?
apart. Yeah, so it has. The pictures are awesome too. So
Oh my God.
I thought maybe okay. So maybe I did just tell you about it and send you a picture. Yeah, it's basically it's like the movie just with the dialogue and then songs from it, and then they wrap it up in two sides.
Oh, that's amazing.
This will be
Dude.
interesting. So, I thought maybe they actually had like, they're not songs but song titles, but they don't. Yeah, this is 1978, The Story of Star Wars.
So that was after it had come out and was already huge.
Well,
'Cause-
it says 77, but that's when the movie came out. So,
May 25th of
well, it still says
1977.
77 on here, so this must have came out at the end of the year.
Wow. I am truly jealous.
Yeah, next time you come over, I'll have to show this to you. I thought yeah.
So Adam Rishog's he wants. I was about to say says it's not Adam Rishog's. Adam Rishog wants to know: have you ever heard the band Galactic Empire? Metal instrumental versions of Star Wars songs, pretty wicked stuff. I interviewed Galactic Empire on the Nerf Herder Council twice, and I've also seen them live. They did like a tour, and they came to Cleveland. Actually, the same venue that Brian saw Jeff Tate at, the Beachland Ballroom, and they were fantastic. And so I have heard of it. They actually have a couple other stuff. I think there's a couple songs if you look out there they did now, like the Book of Boba Fett. I want to say like the Jurassic Park theme. So they got a couple singles out there now, some other stuff, but yeah, Galactic Empire is kick ass. It's like if you took the Star Wars music and just made it like done by like a thrash metal band. The instrumentation's great. And when I interviewed him, the guy told me that they specifically look at the orchestration, so it's not just like a few guitar parts here and there. Like they actually go through like the 40 and 50 piece orchestra, and they recreate most of that. So it's really dense and really layered, and it's really true to the original tracks. So, yeah, but so I know it's kind of cheesy to pull a movie soundtrack out, but
I should have known.
Dude, I gotta get my Star Wars in there,
I'm super hyped. Do you know what other John Williams score is coming to Blossom this summer?
Oh, which one is it? It's not Return of the Jedi, so I'm mad at them. Actually, funny you mentioned the night before the fan hangout on December 30th, I'll be in Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati Orchestra is playing the Force Awakens soundtrack while the movie's playing. So I'm seeing that, but what is it? I'm drawing a blank. What is it?
Jurassic Park.
That's right.
It's actually my favorite score of his. I love that. There's some video of some, I don't know if it's like Poland, some European symphony playing it, and I think he's like directing him, and it sounds so damn good.
Do you remember hearing the Jurassic Park recorder?
Oh yeah.
Like that is
Yep.
That is absolutely just one of the funniest things I have ever heard.
Yeah, it's up there with Titanic.
Yep. But all right, so what is the last one on your list?
So the last one on my list, and this is slightly, it's not really inspired by, because it would have made it anyway, but I had the pleasure of listening to the Adam and Kyle podcast of I think it's Hear What's Spinning.
Here's What's Spinning, yes.
Here's What's Spinning, yeah. And they had a special guest on who has not made it on our show tonight. I think it's the first time ever. We have not seen Cale McLeish. Cale McLeish was a guest, I don't know what you call the word, not picker, but they do, I don't know if it's the same every week. I've listened to a few here and there. So they did 10 albums, new albums, and ranked them, one of which was the newer Alter Bridge album. And Adam made a point of, I believe, saying Fortress by Alter Bridge was their best album. And I've long held fast to that idea. Okay. So 2013 Alter Bridge's Fortress, 1 hour and 3 minutes, 12 songs, just an absolute hard rock, atmospheric opus, I guess is the word I could use. I mean, every song on here just, and the title track, one of those weird ones where the title track is at the very end, and it just finishes so damn well. And it starts out with Cry of Achilles, goes into Addicted to Pain, Bleed It Dry, really cool song called The Piece Is Broken. I mean, Miles is just singing absolutely out of his gourd. I think this is when they were at the top of their game in terms of just like experimenting wise. A little bit new ground was broken on some of these songs, and the way they approach the writing, and some different changes and dynamics and stuff. And I kind of feel since then that it's gotten a little stale-ish maybe. But man, Alter Bridge Fortress, if you're wanting to know where to start, if you want to get on the Alter Bridge Miles Kennedy train, I would probably go ahead and start with either Fortress or maybe Blackbird, but sure to me is their just penultimate album. And I was lucky enough to see at the Northfield, was it what do they still call that? The Hard Rock over there.
The Roxino or whatever.
Yeah, Roxino, yeah. So I was lucky enough to see them on on this tour there, and I believe they played almost half this album, and they just sounded amazing. So that is my final Desert Island album, 2013, Alter Bridges Fortress. And this has been fun, man.
It's been difficult.
It's very difficult. Like, it started out as an exercise of something, and it turned into something else. Like you mentioned, like, something that you had an emotional connection to. So that means if you're stranded, you want to kind of go back and get that feeling and reminisce about that. And yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I had a few, I had a few that almost made it, and it was difficult because it was like I whittled this down a lot, and I have 4, maybe 5 that I considered, and I was like, nah. I have and we talked about earlier, Hysteria is on my list. The first 2 Hoobastank records, I am a huge honk for those because, again, melody, and I sing along to them for days. And I also have Ozzy's The Ultimate Sin, because that is my favorite Ozzy record, and emotional connection here. When I discovered 1984 by Van Halen, I knew my older brother, who is he's 9 years older than I am. He had music up in his room, and I would get home from school before him, and I would go upstairs and I'd raid his room and I'd look and see what he had. And I'll never forget the 3 that were laying out. It was Sammy Hagar VOA, Motley Crue Shout at the Devil, and it was Ozzy Osbourne Ultimate Sin. And I would grab them and run downstairs and play them on my dad's big system until I'd see someone coming home. They'd run upstairs, put the tapes away, turn the stereo off, whatever. And Ultimate Sin just always stuck with me. And Shout at the Devil, too. And, VOA I couldn't get past I Can't Drive 55. But
what about Dick in the Dirt?
Right. I'm trying to think what I was watching or listening to recently. That it was the Ted Templeman biography, and he mentions that song because he produced VOA. So, and the last one that was like almost made it was For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge by Van Halen. Because when Pound Cake came out, I was 15, and I burned out so many copies of that album. I just absolutely love For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. So, did you write down any that almost made it?
So I took one off of there because I was going to probably get creamed for it.
Okay.
And I don't care. I'll say it now. I actually had, you're going to laugh at this, I had Jay-Z, The Blueprint 3.
What?
Look, a real quick story on that. So I had moved from customer care department to another department, the reconciliation department in community care. And I'll just come out and say it. I was the only white guy there, right? So,
okay.
And we did this thing where I was like, I wonder if I can get, some of my coworkers to listen to something I have and see if vice versa. And there was this one girl there that I had her digging some Green Day and some, actually, I think it was the second Hoobastank. I had a couple songs on there she was digging too. And it was funny. And she's like, and the one that everyone just kept talking about, I was like, well, just check out the Jay-Z, and that's the one that has Alicia Keys, the New York Concrete Junk. It's been played to death. But there was a lot of really cool, different types of songs on there. It's like it goes the gamut of like funk and disco and like industrial and electronic, and I don't know. I just thought it was one of those where, sort of by the end of me working there, I just sort of just kept that album on play, just kind of kept playing it, and I just really dug it. I just thought it was really cool. Okay. But then I'm like, I don't know if I want to put this on my list. But anyway, so I had that on there. I had another one. I had Switchfoot, The Beautiful Letdown. I don't know if you ever got into them. They had a couple of hits, Dare You to Move and Meant to Live. They originally were, I guess, it's a little bit of controversy surrounding this. I guess they're originally a quote unquote Christian rock band. And then
that's what I thought.
And then maybe really not so much, but they never really mentioned, those kind of themes in their lyrics. But I mean, they're very deep lyrically, but they don't really say God and stuff in them too much.
Okay.
But yeah, I know there's something about that album. I heard the single and it was one of those like, okay, I got to go buy the CD, and I thought it was going to be one of those like as soon as I bought the CD, like, and this isn't going to be. But man, they're just a real unique. Poppy vocally was great, and just huge anthemic choruses I could get into, and it was I don't know, it just the kind of stuff that makes you feel good yet sort of sad at the same time, and sort of contemplative, like
Right.
I love that type of music. Like the older I get, the more if I get something that like literally can trigger like all those things in me when I listen to it, then I dig it even more.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that band, to be honest with you.
Well, before we go, Adam Rishog literally says before we go,
Okay.
what do you guys think of the new Metallica track?
I will let you go first.
Okay. Um, I think it's just let's try to write a song. It sounds like Motorhead. Be done with it.
It does kind of sound like that, doesn't it?
And I'm not saying that's bad, but let's just be honest with ourselves. They don't have it in them to come out with a Ride the Lightning or a Master of Puppets song wise. They don't have them in them.
Yeah.
It's not there. That's gone, and that's okay. But let's
Yeah.
just stop pretending that that's there. And so this is probably what you're going to get, And again, it sounds like something that you or I could have come up with in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
And it's very throwback and Motorhead-ish, but that's my take on it.
I it's cool. I like it. They put Lars back on a grid. I will say that. So his drums are actually not untouched, which I think is good. I like the double bass. I'm glad that it sounds old school. It definitely does sound like it sounds more like one of the covers they would have done.
Yep.
Back in like the around the time of the Black Album. But I mean, it's good. It's cool that they're getting back into some heavier stuff. The Lux Eterna, like that's kind of cool. Like Lars Ulrich, though, I mean, the guy, I don't know why he even owns toms anymore. all he needs is cymbals, a snare drum, and a kick, because that guy is so averse to playing the toms. Every drum feels like, Jesus Christ, will you throw in some toms? Like, and I have a hard time getting past him in that band anymore. I mean, I've been pretty vocal about that, but I think it's cool. The thing that worries me is that the track listing and everything for the record sounds just like it did with Hardwired, where it's like 12 songs but like 70 plus minutes, and it's like Hardwired had some great stuff and then some pretty serious filler. It's like you don't need to have that many songs, especially when like 3 or 4 of them are just shit. So if you just put like the 8 or 9 best out there and made it like an hour long or something, like that would be a kick-ass Metallica record. So I think I'm thinking it's going to be like that again. But I mean, this is a good start. But again, like at 77 minutes, we have 11 more songs, and this song's only like 3.5 minutes long. So you're talking about you've got 11 songs at 73 minutes coming up.
Yeah, I don't think they have it in them to make a 6-minute song anymore. I just don't. I
would say.
Yeah.
So, well, that was a blast, man. Unfortunately, this is your last show for the rest of the year. We have the big fan appreciation, the fan hangout show coming up on Friday, December 30th, and you will not be taking part.
I'm going to give the fans the ultimate present. They don't have to see my ass.
Well,
I'm going to miss out. I might be able to tune in live and watch a little bit as I'm driving, hopefully, to catch a little bit of your shenanigans.
I do have some guest hosts coming on. I got to get in touch with them and do some test recordings, but our friend Chastity is going to be coming on and hosting a bit with me. I actually have a gentleman from Germany who still is in the industry, so I don't know how juicy we can get, but he was Dream Theater's label rep back around like the late 90s. So he is familiar with them. So he's going to come on. I think we're going to have him on first because it's a 5-hour time difference. But he's actually going to come on and tell us some Dream Theater stories from having worked with the band as their label rep. I just got to confirm that with him. And then Everett Painter might come on. Obviously, he runs the chapter of the Dream Theater USA fan club here in our area. And we have another gentleman that has asked to come on as well. So I will be talking about anything and everything. The gorilla farts will be flowing. And if any of you guys listening or watching would like to come on and take Brian's place for a while on Friday, December 30th for the Fan Appreciation Show, the Fan Hangout, just shoot us an email to talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com, and I will get in touch with you, and we'll set up a quick test call to make sure all your stuff's working great, and then we'll get you scheduled for that night. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't believe you have to miss it. That really sucks, but, family comes first.
It does, man. It's been a cool year, man. We just finished our second year. Is that right?
Yeah, this is I believe episode 50.
Wow.
I think this is like our 50th episode, I want to say. So yeah,
crazy.
I know. I know. And dude, we got a lot of really cool stuff that we're working on, getting going here for the show. So still working on getting some big name interviews, and we're gonna be talking to our buddy Paul Lowe. We're gonna do another Queensryche deep dive. We're gonna be talking about the Empire record, and again, got some really cool stuff planned, and hopefully it pans out. So yeah, like you said, another great year, dude. So make sure you do tune in a little bit live, because it'd be interesting to get your comments and not bring them up on the screen.
Yeah, right.
That would be funny. So, but yeah, this was a blast, man. Good idea. And I guess show wise, I will see you in 2023.
Yeah, I'm not coming back till next year. I'm sorry. I hate to break that. So.
Nice. That's great. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it. Adam Rishog, Chastity Crawley, great to see you guys. Our good buddy Logan Brannigan, Daniel Navarez Arojo, thanks for bringing your list. John Toburin, thank you. And guys, again, our next broadcast will be on Friday, December 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is our annual Fan Hangout episode, so tune in for that. It is a completely free-form discussion with all of you guys. You run the show. If you would like to jump on camera and co-host with me for a segment, just shoot an email to talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com, and I will get you all set up. So, Brian, I will see you in 2023. And the rest of you guys, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And as usual, Carpe Diem.